Warm up on the back four. You're gonna need to make a move, Brendan. Warm up on the back four. Here's some areas to improve, Brendan. Need a left back and a keeper right now. I don't likely win the league, but whatever wrong. A left back and a keeper could just keep it strong. And please let O'Reilly stay. Keeper and left back, and the league is in the back.
This song has great character.
A keeper and left back, and the title's in the back. They make it home.
Subscribe to Mixu for more great character.
I have no words. A round of applause for Mixu, everybody. Ross Mains on Twitter, Mixu on YouTube. After I'm done this, I will put it. It's not mine, but it's, you know, he's went out his way to make that. When I jokingly put on the Celtic the Thunder Twitter that a new version was needed. Obviously, Murder on the Dance Floor coming back into popularity over the past few days and weeks because of that film Saltburn that's arrived, and it just reminded me. Do you not remember a couple of years ago when we had the version, and it was Big Dom, when Dominic Mackay had just arrived and Celtic were in desperate need of a keeper on the right back. I loved it. I thought it was great satire. I love it. I love stupid comedy. And with the song coming back, it just reminded me, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to chance my luck here. I'm going to tweet this on the podcast account in the hope that Ross sees it and Ross makes an updated version. And then about an hour ago, I've never clicked on a notification faster in my life. I'll play it at the end for this again, But hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're here for another live stream. It's nice to see so many of yous piling in for a very uneventful live stream, to tell you the truth, because as the title says and the thumbnail says, it's been a very quiet day once again for Celtic. It's all quiet on the Western Front. Dermot Desmond, Peter Lawwell, Mark Lawwell, Brendan Rodgers seem to have the week off and more, because nothing seems to be happening, to be quite honest. McGinley, that's just get your leave. Big Mixu Pataline, so yeah, it's been quiet. There's not been an awful lot to talk about. We do have a couple of wee stories to kind of cover. Some departures at Celtic, as we know, a couple of potential departures as well, and only one new name that we've been, and I'm going to use this term very lightly here, linked with. One name, there's a player in the thumbnail, which we'll come on to as well, but generally, things not really happening or moving at Celtic at the minute. I will try and stick to what I said yesterday, where I said I'm not in a panic, I'm not in a rush for Celtic to go out there and sign players who aren't the required quality and are only being signed for the sake of it. However, I was hoping that by January 9th there'd be some more encouraging signs. It even went quiet with the likes of Thiago Araujo. Remember him? Who's that? Where is he? Is he ever coming to Celtic? I don't know. We're going to cover everything today. Thank you to everybody piling in, by the way. It's nice to see you. It was a nice comment. Kanzo, it's good to see you. Nice to see me looking fresh. I wouldn't say I look fresh, but I appreciate it anyway, Kanzo. It's good to see you in here. Legend. And hopefully things do pick up. So let's try and go over a few of those things, shall we? Let's start with the first story, and let's just get them out of the way, because I was never going to be able... I want to get back into making videos, daily videos every day, like I used to doing. But there's been nothing to make videos with the football being off and with the lack of transfer talk that there's been, both incomings and outgoings. I can't make 10-minute videos, so there's nothing better to do than bringing you guys into the mix and getting your thoughts and your opinions, your questions, your answers, your everything. You guys make the channel anyway, so I may as well get you involved. Lewis, I love you. Nice to see you. Happy New Year, Lewis. And I appreciate that. And thank you to everybody else. Let's start with the first story there, because I know you are all choking to get involved and we want to get onto that Q&A segment. So why don't we just start with this? The first official departure in this January transfer window. Yosuke Ideguchi has left Celtic on a permanent basis following his loan move to Vissel Kobe in the Japanese J League last year. He's left in a permanent deal. He's off after a very short-lived Celtic career. He was obviously signed in that January 2022 window alongside Dyson Maeda and Ryo Hatate, and out of the three of them, well, I think we know which one had the least impact at Celtic. However, what I will say is very, very unlucky at Celtic. One start, it was against Alloa, and he was murdered right there and then, and alongside it, his Celtic career was, that's a belter, by the way, get that up on screen, off-ski Ideguchi. Badum-tiss. I love that. Well done. Cracker. Obviously, very unlucky. Injured in that game against Alloa. Never really found his way back into the Celtic side afterwards. He was then, of course, loaned out this time last year on a season-long loan deal back to the homeland of Japan. And now he's leaving on a permanent basis. Yeah, that's that for Yosuke Ideguchi. Off-ski Ideguchi, as we're now referring to him. What I will say is, very unfortunate, and I wish him the best with the rest of his career. Obviously was just never going to work out for him at Celtic. He's somebody who we can't even really judge in saying, like, oh, he was never Celtic quality. You know, I say that about a Yuki Kobayashi, who you can look at and you've seen enough of them to go, right, he's never going to cut it. We've seen this guy 2-3 times. I think it actually tells you in this article, I've not even been looking at 3 substitute appearances in a game, and he start against Alloa after a big injury as well, those substitution appearances, I think. Yeah, we never really got to see him. I think that he was probably dying to go back home. Apparently had a really good season in Japan last year. I think he was nominated for Player of the Year, so fair play to him. Looks as though he's got a good future lined up for him over there now, some confidence, some momentum to build off, and I wish him the absolute best. But it was somebody who will be a quiz question in a few years' time. That's, you know, that in 20 years' time, if you're ever at a Celtic pub quiz or just a general football pub quiz in the city of Glasgow, in 20 years' time, there's going to be that question, isn't there? Question number 4. In January 2022, Celtic signed the Japanese trio of Dyson Maeda, Ryo Hatate, and which other player? You know that's going to happen. That's going to be a quiz question in 20 years' time. And you've got to remember, it was Yosuke Ideguchi. I don't blame you if you don't remember, though, because it's one that will probably slip your mind very, very quickly. Best of luck to him, though, with Yosuke Ideguchi. That was the one big story that we all woke up to today. I say big. I say big. It's not a big story. It's a minor story amongst a field of minor stories. But talking about departures, it doesn't stop there. And I see a lot of you talking away and a lot of you saying farewell to Yosuke Ideguchi and all the rest of it. We could be seeing another player leave Celtic pretty soon. And we're going to come on to this one now. Fabrizio Romano tweeted this last night. On the 8th of January, Bologna interested in Celtic's 18-year-old talent, Rocco Vata, as potential opportunity for the January transfer window. Talks expected to take place soon, and more will follow as interest in the Irish talent is now growing. This one's a funny one for a lot of people. This is one that splits a lot of opinion, because a lot of people feel like he's been really hard done by at Celtic and he's not been given enough opportunities, when the likes of, you know, James Forrest, Mikey Johnson are continuously given opportunities at the club. The way that I simply look at it with Rocco Vata is he's been deemed a level that isn't apparently good enough, and we'll never really get to know the reason why. Listen, a lot of people think it's easy for us to give him a run of games. You've got to remember, the B team are playing at a very low level. They're playing in the Lowland League. It's a far cry away from the Scottish Premiership in terms of the quality and the standard that they're playing. Is Rocco Vata doing enough and proven enough to be brought up and given the chance? I don't know. I'm not going to comment on it myself. I'm probably not as heartbroken about Rocco Vata potentially leaving Celtic as what maybe other people are. But what I will say is, it is kind of gutting that somebody who has been spoke about so highly, who has been dubbed a prospect, not given the opportunity and now probably going to leave the club. I don't blame him leaving the club, and to be honest, if that opportunity is never going to rise for him, we may as well let him leave the club. There's no point in harming the career of a potentially great young player if they're not going to get the chance here. There has to be, the way I look at it is, there has to be a reason that James Forrest is still ahead of him in the Celtic pecking order. Because James Forrest shouldn't be ahead of many people in the Celtic pecking order. And if Brendan Rodgers and even, Ange Postecoglou and other coaches think that that's the case, then obviously he's not good enough. So, everybody thinks it's as simple as him coming in and taking these chances, but then he gets these chances Doesn't take them, and what happens from there, because we see what happens with so many of these young players at Celtic. Then we end up loaning them out to clubs like Dunfermline and Raith Rovers and Greenock Morton and all that, and their careers just don't amount to anything. That's a massive opportunity for them. Bologna and other teams in Italy have done a really, really good job in recent years of taking young Scottish talent, nurturing them, giving them first team opportunities, and then obviously turning them into great players. Lewis Ferguson being a prime example, Josh Doig, who hasn't really kicked on as much but still another fine example. Obviously Aaron Hickey being probably the best example with his time in Italy, then now playing for Premier League Brentford. I think that there's always just got to be a level there, or a reason there why Rocco Vata isn't getting these chances. I don't think it's as black and white as what some people think. And people say, oh, he's doing well for the B team. It's the B team. Playing in the Lowland League. The jump is massive. But we'll watch this one as it develops. There's nothing there to say that it's definitely going to happen, but I do think he'll go. I think he's probably a little bit tired himself of not having that opportunity. Listen, if Celtic were smart about it, they'd put a buyback clause in it in case he does turn out to be a great player. You know, look what PSG done with Xavi Simons, for example. Put a fucking buyback clause on him. If he goes over to Italy and starts turning it up, get him right fucking back. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. But I'm just floating out suggestions. Peter and Dermot and Mark and Brendan, whoever's listening, floating ideas here. Buyback clauses. Think smart. Think smarter, not harder. So Rocco Vata could be away. And then I think there's only one more kind of story, and so I'm fucking roasting up here. There's only one more sort of story that also came out today in terms of departures, which I think is going to have a snowball effect onto the next sort of story and where that comes and where that goes. And that was this one by Scott Burns today in the Daily Record. The Daily Record. Benjamin Siegrist, this has been reported widely now that he's had a transfer out of Celtic Park collapse over recent days. Apparently he was off to Sturm Graz in Austria. That's fell through. Doesn't look as though it's happening anymore. My theory for it is that he read the papers, thought it said Australia. Turns out it was Austria. That's my theory. We all know how he's got some very good links in Australia and why he wants to be there so badly. So that's my theory. He's realised at the last minute, Austria? Oh no, that's the wrong place. And the move has fell through. If you read on in the article, I think it was something that you've been working on the deal for a month and it's now had the deal collapse in front of them because they want to go down another route. So it doesn't look as though it is anything actually on Siegrist's end. It looks as though that Sturm Graz want to go down the route of Liverpool's young keeper, sixth choice keeper, and that's why it's collapsed, apparently. But I guess it's something that we'll just need to wait and hear more about as days go on. What I will say is it obviously proves that Celtic are trying to get Benjamin Siegrist out the club, off the wage bill. I imagine something will pop up for him, whether it's a loan move or a permanent transfer. Benjamin Siegrist probably won't be a Celtic player come February. It's obviously just a little bit gutting for him that this one has collapsed for him a little bit and it's not worked out for him, because obviously you don't want these things to drag out and all the rest of it. But Siegrist surely won't be a Celtic player come February. As far as my understanding is, there is a few clubs that have inquired. A few clubs have looked at the possibility of Benjamin Siegrist. That's as far as my understanding is. However, it looks as though that Sturm Graz are the only team thus far who have actually acted upon said interest. So now it's about these other clubs who've maybe been looking at him and now acting. But hopefully he gets his move, because obviously he's not doing anything here at Celtic. We don't need him. That's a spot we could free up. It's a spot to obviously bring in and look forward to our next goalkeeper who will overtake the reins of Joe Hart. But that move's collapsed for him. And that's pretty much it in terms of outgoings. Thank you, by the way, to Ian Fleming for the $5. Appreciate it. You're an absolute legend, Ian, as always. Evening, Ryan. Quite a bit quiet at Celtic. Could do with a couple in soon just to get things moving. Yeah, I think that's, as I always said about this window coming into it, I only expected Celtic to make 2 signings, maybe 3 if we were really lucky. But I think the most annoying thing, Ian, as you're saying, is 1, to get things moving would be really nice. 1, to just kind of give people that sort of peace of mind would be a really nice thing. So hopefully tomorrow we wake up. Maybe tomorrow we wake up and we see some news. We see something. But the last story that we are going to talk about is about incomings, and this is the last one. So Obviously, over the course of this window, we have spoke about a couple players. Just to round them off very quickly again and give you the reminders. We've spoke about Thiago Araujo. We've spoke about Matthias Kvistgaarden. We've spoke about Scott McKenna. Today, the Daily Mail reported that Celtic are apparently looking into the prospect of signing Leeds striker Joe Gelhardt, who is also an option for Rangers, apparently. What I will say is this. I've seen people already talking about it in the chat, and obviously I've got him in my thumbnail, Joe Gelhardt. I'm not a massive Joe Gelhardt fan, not going to lie. I looked at the stats for a striker and all the rest of it. He's not my cup of tea, quite frankly. I've not done enough sort of research into him yet to see what kind of player we're dealing with here and how he'd maybe fit into Celtic system. But all people have been bringing up his name. It's one line in a transfer article. I'm going to put a wild stab in the dark here, going off other things and what I've heard and seen. I don't think there's any truth in it. It also gives me the same vibes as Scott McKenna, and we've seen where that went. So apparently Joe Gelhardt is somebody who's been linked with Rangers for a week or so now. Talking to my pals who support Rangers, they said, "Oh, we've been looking at him for that's been in the news for a couple of days, a week or something." I was like, just gives me Scott McKenna vibes, because apparently Scott McKenna was a Rangers target, and then 2 minutes later, he was Celtic were leading the race for him, and then the next night it was reported that Celtic had no interest whatsoever. It gives me the same vibes. Is it because he's interested? Rangers are interested? Are they just throwing Celtic into the mix as well? It is literally one line in a Daily Mail article with no more follow-up to it. The sentence linking Gelhardt, I was about to say Joe Hart. The sentence linking Joe Gelhardt with Celtic is, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 words. 12 words, and that's that. That's it. So, unless there's more to develop from this story, I must say, I think it's nonsense. It gives me Scott McKenna vibes, and I think that in a couple of days' time, it'll A, go quiet, or B, the same headlines will come out where Joe Gelhardt to Celtic is rubbished. I think we'll see something along those lines. The thing is, for me, Joe Gelhardt, going off what I have seen, doesn't offer a clear improvement on anybody we have at the club, not even O. He definitely would be an upgrade on O. He definitely would be in terms of he's played for Leeds, he's signed at a Premier League level, he's in the Championship, he's scored goals, he's more known than O. Yeah, but do I think that there's, he's coming in to be once again second fiddle to Kyogo? What we should be looking for is a striker who challenges the space of Kyogo, and I don't think that's Joe Gelhardt. That's my 2 cents on it, and that's where I would leave it. But I think these are names that are getting plucked out of thin air. I think that these players in the Championship who are desperate for maybe a move. Let me do a bit of research here. Joe Gelhardt. Get me his transfer mark for a moment. I want to see how many appearances he's made this season, because this usually is quite telling when it comes to try to debunk these rumours of signings. This season he's played 6 times in the Championship for Leeds, and they've played about 25 games, I think. So 6 out of, say, a possible 25, 26 games, whatever. And the boy's probably desperate to play football, just like Scott McKenna was probably to play football. They all work in similar agencies, and they want to get their players a move in the second half of the season. What's a better way to get a club worried if Rangers are interested or Celtic are interested than to try and throw out the opposition? Oh, Rangers want him, let's say Celtic do too, because that'll bring some interest. That'll bring your name up to the top of some piles. People want to act fast. I think it's absolute nonsense, I must say. But that's just my 2 cents on it. And we'll see how it develops. He is only 21, don't get me wrong. He's definitely got potential in there. But he's never had a prolific goal-scoring season at the top level. He's scored 2 goals in the Premier League in 21-22. He scored 3 goals in the Championship with Sunderland last season. And he's scored 1 goal in the Cup this season. His biggest goal scorer season was with 11 goals in the Premier League 2, so the B Team League back in 2021. It's a no-go for me, to be quite honest. I know he's young. I know he's probably going few and far between with chances, but I would be looking to expand our options elsewhere. And that's pretty much it. I believe, in terms of... I'm going to come on to you guys in a minute now. But that's pretty much it in terms of news updates. As I said, just a quick recap. Yosuke Ideguchi has left. Benjamin Siegrist, his deal has collapsed. Joe Gelhardt, I think, is a lot of nonsense. We were also linked with another striker or another player from Rapid Vienna. I've seen people saying his name in the chat, Nicholas Kuhn, but I'm not going to cover it because I think it was the owner of the club or the manager, one of the two, the owner or the manager of Rapid Vienna already came out and said that he's not leaving in January, so I don't think Celtic will be in there for that, so there's not even a point. And then everything else comes on from yesterday's video anyway, so if you want more updates, if you want to hear about Gustav Lagerbielke, if you want to hear about any of the other stories that have been floating about in the past few days, yesterday's video is where I'll direct you. Let's get on to a Q&A segment of the show. However, one more time, shall we, before I come back, for yous who have missed it, why don't we play the song? Why don't we try and get a move on, eh? This one's from Ross Mains, and this is how I'm summing up this January transfer window. Brendan, you better get a move on.
We're mud on the back four. You're gonna need to make a move, Brendan. We're mud on the back four. Here's some areas to improve, Brendan. Need a left back and a keeper right now. I know we'll likely win the league, but we'll have a run. A left back and a keeper could just keep us strong. And please not O'Reilly stay.
Keeper at left back, and the league is in the bag. This song has great character. Keeper at left back, and the title's in the back. They make it home. Subscribe to Mixu for more great character.
I mean, I've just got to say thanks to Mixu one more time. You can find his YouTube channel, Mixu. It's like Mixu Patterlinen. Or you can go and find him on Twitter, Ross Mains, Mains. Go and give him a follow. Go and give him a subscribe because he deserves it. I love it. I love shite comedy like that. You know what I mean? People, that's the kind of thing that people share and like, what did I do? I fucking love it. Keep it coming. Absolutely brilliant. Right, let's do a Q&A then, shall we? I mean, oh god, I wish it was me singing. Ross deserves all the credit for it. It's not me. Granted, I think I'd be quite good on the old Eurovision anyway. I could write shite. That's what they see me sing on Eurovision, shite. I could do that. Right, let's get Q&A going, shall we? Give an impression, Ryan. And what of Brendan? You know, we've got to get a left back signed in the window, boys. You know, another beautiful human being with great character. You know, I remember Kieran Tierney. He stood there in his tracksuit. Right, that's plenty. Why does Benji want to go to Australia? God. Simply put, I think his girlfriend is Australian. Spent a lot of time in Australia, Benjamin Siegrist. If you keep up with him on like social media, last season he was in Australia loads. I think his girlfriend's an Aussie. So that's it, simply put. That's why I was saying I think he misread Austria for Australia and he's realised last minute the deal's collapsed. I've not seen it yet, Lubo. I'm going to watch it this week, though. Oh, that's a nice question. How about it was cracking? It was unbelievable. I had a chasney. I went for a chat. Well, I had chicken pakora to start. I had a chasney. I got my wee bit of Peshwari naan to split with somebody. Masala chips to split with somebody. Oh, it was unbelievable. Thank you for asking. Look, I'm glad that you remembered. Let's get that going. Thoughts on Jordan Henderson? His name has been circling around. Here's simply my thoughts. Never in a million years. For a guy who is currently getting paid upwards of £500,000 a week, his next destination is never going to be Celtic Football Club. So I've seen somebody floating it about in my comment section today. They said, would you take Jordan Henderson? And I don't even think it's even worth answering the question because that's never going to happen. I know people go, oh, but Rodgers managed them. Oh, come on. Let's behave ourselves. Barco, yeah, he's away to Brighton, I think, Valentin Barco, isn't he? An FM player, him. I wonder if he'll do well. I know he's away to the Premier League anyway. I heard Scales is getting a new contract. I've heard this for a couple of months, that Scales' contract's in the works. And hopefully so. He's deserving of it. We now know he's certainly more than used to the club. And even if eventually his place is up for grabs, and if he does kind of drop out of the side, which is I don't want to sound like I'm disregarding him at all. It's not the case, but eventually you're probably going to want to sign a quality centre-back to join Cameron Carter-Vickers. But he's definitely got his place to come in and out this side, absolutely. So he deserves a new contract. I give him a new contract, absolutely. Am I happy with Bain being around? Yeah. I mean, you need a third choice keeper. And look, I look at Scott Bain the same way I look at the likes of Scott Carson at Manchester City, or like Tom Heaton when he was at Manchester United. If you're bringing in somebody who's going to fill up a registration spot and be third choice keeper, it's the best of both worlds. Absolutely, I'm fine with Scott Bain being around. You need four Scottish trained players to be in your... You need eight Scottish trained players to be in your squad. 4 for the club, 4 for the country. Bain taking one of those places without really wasting a spot is just, it's a no-brainer for me. So I am fine with Bain being around. I got adverts, why can't we get Henderson? Because he's on about 600 grand a week, that's why. Simply put. Let's see. Would you work at Celtic TV if they wanted you in comms or something? Obviously, absolutely. Will they ever offer me that? I don't know. I've never had my opinions on things that happen at the club. Don't know if that would cost me any jobs. But listen, I've got my degree in journalism now, and my dream is to be a commentator. And even bigger than that, my dream would to work for Celtic, obviously. So aye, of course I would, Nathan. If there's ever a gig going. Jordan Henderson, handshake James McCarthy. Paul, thank you for the donation. Who would you have take the belt off Roman Reigns? Cody Rhodes. Simple as that. I'll CM Punk ideally, but Cody Rhodes realistically. Taylor needs a new contract. Would you give him it, Ryan? This one would split opinion, but I probably would. I probably would give him a new contract just because Greg Taylor can't be our starting left back forever, right? That's just, we all recognise that, and I think that the club need to recognise that as well. But at the end of the day, in the Ralston role, absolutely, and being that backup fullback, yeah, absolutely. I don't want to give him that disrespect in saying that's all he is. He definitely has a part to play at Celtic. I just think that, we have to be realistic about the quality that we need to progress as a football club. But I would give him a contract and keep him around. Once again, it fills those spots that we need for Scottish players. Absolutely. Would you buy Doig? I would, but I think that, I don't know. I would, probably. I probably would buy Doig. But I don't know what the situation is with him. Apparently he's off to Is it below? He's off to another. I can't remember what Italian club he's apparently away to. So it looks as though that might be done. I'm not entirely sure. Petition. You know what? Honestly, if you want to start a petition, feel free. I'd happily be on. No, absolutely not. I don't think I could ever forgive myself. Would you commentate exclusively in the Rodgers voice though? I couldn't imagine how that would sound for the viewer. The audience. Imagine that. Oh, and here goes Kyogo now bearing down on goal. Oh, he's put it across. And it's Abada with the finish. A beautiful, beautiful finish from Liel Abada. Celtic have the lead in the derby. And a beautiful day for all. You know what I mean? Don't think it would ever work, really. Who would be my dream signing for Celtic? Do you know what? It's boring. It's a boring answer. You're going to hate me for it. But if it's dreaming, you can sign anybody within a realistic realm. Like, I'm not going to sit here and go, Kylian Mbappe. Because we're never going to sign him. Fucking Mbappe. You know what I mean? We're never going to sign any of my dream signings. But I'm just going to say it still. John McGinn. I still would love... John McGinn is one of the best... Probably the best Scottish player of my lifetime. I'd love to see him play for Celtic. And obviously he's a Celtic man. I know it's a boring answer, but you all know how much I wanted McGinn at the time and how much I love him still. I would love to see McGinn at Celtic. But sadly, I think he's a little bit too past that stage, isn't he? Let's see. If you had to pick Miovski or Shankland as our second striker, who would you take? Out of the two of them, if I had to pick one of them, I don't really necessarily want either of them at Celtic. But I think that out of the two, I'd take Shankland personally. I think. But once again, I necessarily don't want any of them. John, thank you for the 5. It's very much appreciated. It's Brendan Rodgers Indian. Maybe there's some Indian genes in there. I don't know. I've never asked them. A weirdly quiet window. Only Vernon to talk about. Yeah, January's just really hard to sign players. And the thing is with January is moves do happen, obviously, and big moves can happen, but they're so they're always with players who are desperate to leave their clubs, or they're frozen out of their clubs or whatever. Nobody wants to sell their best assets in the January transfer window unless it's an outlandish price they're being paid. And Celtic can't pay outlandish prices. And that's what I've been trying to say for weeks leading up to this window, because I think that the fact of the matter is that Celtic are never going to be able to go and break the bank to land the club's best players. So we need to do our best in the majority of our business in the summer. And that's why I was never getting my hopes up too much about this window. But it is what it is. Thank you, Jordan, by the way. Cash for that impression. Made my night. Fingers crossed for the Portuguese left back, Araujo. Thank you for the donation, first of all. Thank you for the compliments as well, Jordan. But yeah, any left back, honestly, we just need depth in the area. Bernabé hopefully leaves. I don't know what's really happening there. I mean, people are still bringing up Merlin. That's not going to happen now. As far as my understanding is, when it comes to Quinton Merlin, is we had our chance in the summer, and it was then or never, because now big clubs are interested. Celtic aren't going to be able to compete with the apparent interested sides. And even if we did try and go in, he'd probably be like, well, no, because there's clubs in the Premier League or in the Bundesliga who want me now, and I'm going to wait it out for that. We missed the boat with Merlin. We have to look at players like Araujo now, and hopefully they can come good. But I just hope we sign somebody in the window. I just hope that's the case. And Kvistgarden is one that we're just going to have to watch as well. That's went quiet. There's not been an update on that for days. And somebody else who has interest overseas and other places, I think Schalke were apparently really interested in him. Who, yeah, Schalke haven't been great in recent years, but a massive club. And then apparently some other sides in mainland Europe looking at him as well. So, It's an interesting one with Kvistgarden, but it's one we're just going to have to wait for the next update, the next development, the next time I hear something. What do you think Murray's came in with? What do you think the issues are with our youth setup, Ryan, with Vata possibly off? Is it us, the league setup, or just a Scottish thing, a combination of all three? I've always been I might end the stream on this one, because I've just realised we've went over half an hour. My opinion is that youth football in Scotland is a real... And I know people point out players that we've produced and stuff like that. We are really lacking in producing quality players. It's not a Celtic thing. It's not a Rangers thing. It's a Scotland thing. And I think it goes all the way from the bottom all the way to the top. It goes from grassroots football at the youngest level, from primary schools all the way to, secondary schools, community centres, football pitch availability. Scotland aren't doing what they should be as a politically as a country to harbour the best that they can, channel the best that they can out of these young people to play football. And that ultimately is letting football clubs as big as Celtic, as small as Elgin, suffer. They aren't able to produce real quality. And I think that when these players do make it to these pro youth levels, or they make it to B teams or academy levels, they're getting found out very quickly when foreign players are coming over, or players from down south are coming up, and they are worlds better, and that's the reason why they're taking the spots in all the teams. I think that the country isn't doing enough to really do the best for young athletes in this country in any sport, not just football. That's my general opinion on it all. It's not a Celtic problem. Celtic can do better. There is no denying that, right? But the way that I look at it is, what are Celtic meant to do if they aren't ultimately getting the right players? If they're not getting really good players at a youth level, what are they actually meant to do with them? They can only go so far. And if they're never going to be the level required or the quality required, then that's that. Celtic can't do much more beyond that point. And I think that they were just so behind as a country and so behind, culturally. Yeah, we do produce good players. Obviously, look at the national team. Andy Robertson, who's, not, ancient. Kieran Tierney, who's not much older than myself. John McGinn, who's not ancient either. Scott McTominay, we have been producing good players. But then you look at McTominay wasn't even brought up in the Scottish youth system. He's played for Manchester United since he was a young lad. So we are producing good players, but it's so few and far between when you get one. And then when you do get a talent, they're poached very early. There's so many issues with youth academy football and youth football, I think, in Scotland to really take us to that level that we need to be. And you know what, as well, Gordon Strachan was laughed at years ago when he was Scotland manager, and he said, like, you know, we're too wee. He wasn't wrong. You look, when Scotland play any country, we are fucking tiny. And he was laughed at for it. And I'm not saying that's the reason why we're behind, but it's crazy physically. Like, we aren't, I think politically and there's so much to do with it, but we need to do more to get young people into sports. We need to do things to get young people into gyms and do whatever to, you know, ultimately, you know, get better athletes. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy. There's so much to it. It's a very layered issue, and there's not one blame for it. You can't blame Celtic. You can't blame SFA. You can't blame... There's so much to it. It goes all the way from the Scottish Government down to the smallest football club in the country. There's problems everywhere, and we need to do better. But aye. Right, I'm going to wrap it up there because I've nearly went on 40 minutes and that's longer than I usually do. So thank you everybody for coming out this evening. I do appreciate it. I appreciate your support and watching the streams, especially when there isn't much to talk about. You know, we've got so little to talk about, but we do our best on here, getting you guys in and getting you guys involved with the comments section. So I really do appreciate you all so much for doing that. And hopefully tomorrow we have some news to talk about. Fingers crossed. But thank you for the donations as well, for whoever donated. Thank you for just your time. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time, lads. Cheerio.